This is the Bama Podcast with Marty Solomon. I'm his co-host, Brent Billings. Today, we are back to discuss the ultimate episode of Season 3 of The Chosen.
I'm tracking with you now. I got it. Penultimate. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it was so hard for me to keep quiet last episode. We need to just jump right in today.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we start off in 990 BC, and David enters with his queen, and she's not named. I don't know, because we see Psalm 77 in this. Yeah, is there anything we should know about that?
I don't know if it helps us with timeline and knowing which 990 for me feels a little early to be Bathsheba, but I don't know if there's any tradition, Jewish tradition or history, but tradition surrounding when that happened. Of course, Solomon is old enough to be charged with, I honestly, I don't know, but, she didn't say anything, so her name doesn't pop into the. I always watch for the captions because then I can see.
Yeah.
when they talk, who it is. But yeah, no, I kind of wondered the same thing. Because if it's not Bathsheba, there were other wives, and it could have been Michal. It could have been. I think he had a handful. So
yeah,
who knows at this point in his story? Could have been Abigail, I guess.
Well, she is sitting on the throne. Or on a throne next to David on the throne. And, the camera does cut to her quite a bit. Lots of looks, lots of references, and she is pregnant in this episode. So,
and I think that's why I assumed Bathsheba, because I assumed she was probably pregnant with Solomon, not the child that they lost. But that's just where my brain immediately just went, oh, she's pregnant with Solomon. There is the whole thing in the shop, but who knows?
So David asks Jeduthun, I don't know, and Asaph about some song that they have in progress. And Asaph shares his idea for a spoken verse over the humming from the choir, and then goes on to recite a good chunk of Psalm 77. And Psalm 77 does say at the beginning, for Jeduthun of Asaph, or whatever. So all of the appropriate names are there, like good stuff.
Yeah, And the more I watch this episode, the more I really appreciate what they're doing with the whole, just the whole, how they've worked us into the story of this episode. The very first time I didn't have any anchors. Now that I know where the episode's going, man, do I really appreciate what they did here with the episode.
Anchors, good one, Marty. Ha.
Unintentional, ladies and gentlemen, unintentional.
Okay, so then we have the credits. Now, Jesus is with the growing crowd. He asks his disciples to sit down, and they're very like, what? We're already outnumbered. Do you want us to sit down to make us even more vulnerable? And Jesus is talking about how, we're going to ask questions, we're going to argue if we want, but we're going to talk. We're going to solve problems that way. And starts talking to them about faith. This is where he brings in faith of a mustard seed. Not even the first, like Psalm 77 is already in there, but like we're getting hit hard with the text and early, like we're just going to get all the stories going on here.
Oh yes. Yeah, absolutely. Teaching is going to abound even more than the Sermon on the Mount.
I mean, yeah, we're covering a lot of stuff. A man approaches the group with a broken leg. Apparently it's been broken and infected for long enough that he's just has like a 30-foot radius of horrible smell following him around.
Yeah.
And Jesus is unconcerned by this, goes up and heals him. The guy embraces him, and then he breaks his crutch over his knee and runs away.
Yep.
I wonder where he's going. Jesus makes a comment like, in normal circumstances, I would tell you not to tell anybody about this, but I think we're beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they wove that together. Because immediately off of the last episode, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now everybody is hanging out here. You're not going to heal this guy. Obviously, he's going to, the way they're setting up the scene. And I'm like, how, if you want to keep this a secret? And so then they just kind of like, just brushed it off. I guess it's too late for that, but it's how they were able to weave so many different stories together and different ideas. Not how I see it historically, but again, I'm good with it, to be honest. I don't know why I'm so good with it, but that was fine. I think I just love the idea of Jesus taught these lessons in a lot of different places, and the Gospels place them in different places. Personally, I think that's actually an objective truth. Like these lessons, some of these lessons are portrayed by the Gospel writers, not in the Decapolis, not in this kind of setting. Some of these teachers are coming from the Temple Mount later on in the final week. But if you would have followed me around on book tour, you would have heard me teach some of the same lessons about 10, 11, 12 times, just have the same conversations. I think that's how it probably was with Jesus. He probably taught these stories, these parables, these teachings in multiple settings. So for me, I'm like, I'm totally good with it. It's like I think he told that story or that teaching only one time and only there. So I'm fine. I'm just fine.
Yeah. So this guy runs away, and after the crowd picks their jaws up off the ground, they all sit down and start listening to Jesus. So then we're back with Eden, and she comes home to find Zebedee and Salome and Mary there, and they ask Eden what's going on. She tries to play it off. Salome this is where she makes that comment about a lot has changed in the last couple of years, in the last 2 years specifically. And Zebedee says Simon, has tried to be better than his father.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool way I liked that.
Yeah. And Eden, is trying to share at this point, and Mary notices Eden is kind of like holding her stomach, and Salome picks up on some stuff as well, and so she asks Zebedee to leave, and he goes outside and he finds the broken pot and is picking up pieces from that. I'm not sure if they were trying to say something with the way he was looking at the pieces, if he was seeing something. I didn't catch whatever was going on there, maybe.
Yeah, I think you can hear their voices in the background too. So I think he's listening and he's putting pieces together.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go again, Marty.
I did it again. It's just coming naturally today. But I think he is, realizing where Peter's at. I think it's their way of saying Zebedee doesn't have to be informed. He's getting it.
So Mary asks Eden about, what Eden has done as far as the purification rituals. And Eden said, she tried that. It didn't help. She tries comparing herself to Veronica and the joy that she had from her healing. And then Salome asks Eden, about talking to a rabbi. Eden just wants to talk to Jesus, but he isn't here. Simon isn't here either. And Mary's like, well, it's not really about the rabbi. It's about the words of God that they're going to share with you. So like, let's just go try it. Like, you need to spend some time grieving. You should go to the synagogue. Like, you gotta go walk through these steps. Like, you're done being alone on this journey. Like, you gotta work through this.
Yeah. There are a couple notes I had in that scene. Obviously I loved the community, finally we got Eden and community. Like, the community is showing up for her and is around her. And like we said in the last episode, I think that's probably that, historically speaking, in their context, I think it would have been far more present in her life at every level. And yet this is allowing us as modern people to relate to their story in a more relatable way. So I can appreciate that. I did, when I heard this, did I start to roll my eyes when they're like, well, you should go talk to a rabbi? And I went, ugh, here we go, playing you got to go find your pastor and your church card. But hang on to that, because I'm going to have some very interesting things to say about that when they do end up going and having this conversation. But definitely, I work with a lot of young adults, and there'd be a whole lot of skepticism and a whole lot of eye rolling and a whole lot of, have you talked to your pastor? I'd be like, oh, please. And for good reason, but I'll just put a pin in that comment and resolve it later in the episode.
So then we see the crowd is growing ever larger. We have Roman soldiers wandering around at this point. There's conversation between the groups about land and construction and tribal laws and religions and everything else. James and John take offense at some point, and they jump up, and Jesus is like, the last thing these people need is thunder.
Yeah.
One of the guys quotes Jeremiah 6. Jesus rebuts that with Isaiah 43.
Yeah, he says, don't let the prophets, don't pit the prophets against each other. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
That principle doesn't work. If the first person that gets to proof text something is the one who wins, like, wait a minute.
Right.
But I did appreciate, the text, even with what I would call more Hellenistic Jews. And the point that there's legitimate, like, I think we probably watch over this, but there's legitimate biblical, whatever I'm trying to say, like, they even say this about the parable. Those are legitimate reasons to not come to the banquet. He's got legitimate textual, biblical theology behind his position. And I think that's where a lot of Christians would find ourselves today. We got legitimate reasons to be doing the things that we do, to have the positions we have. And I wonder half the time if Jesus would be like, yeah, okay, enough with your legitimate positions. You completely missed the point.
Well, and I didn't write this down. I don't know if this was in this episode or the last one, but I feel like maybe it was Andrew said something about, I think when they were telling about what groups of people were there, I feel like somebody said something about the people who follow Jeremiah.
Oh, yeah, sure. There's, absolutely. I never thought of that, Brent.
Or who live by the words of Jeremiah or something like that?
Yeah, or Isaiah. Actually, I think the comment was in reference to Isaiah. And there was two different comments.
Yeah, I feel like I remember a comment about people who follow Jeremiah, or the way of Jeremiah, or the words of Jeremiah, or something like that.
Yeah.
But maybe Isaiah too.
Yeah, I was definitely remembering a similar comment about Isaiah. And historically speaking, that's a great observation. I didn't catch until you just said that, because, the Jewish people definitely clung to, we talked about in session 2, we could even link the episode in the show notes, the prophetic table, where we imagine this lively prophetic debate where the prophets kind of argue with each other about what the appropriate response is. And the people of God would have clung to particular prophetic schools. Like, they would have been Jeremiah voice adherents and people that clung to the words of Isaiah more. And so I didn't really think about that until you brought it up, but that's actually very well placed for them, and a good grab on your part.
Well, I only grabbed it in this conversation, Marty. I didn't catch it earlier, but I'm glad it was floating around in my brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
At some point, Leander asks, like, why do you inspire some and threaten others? And Jesus is like, well, let me tell you a story. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, here we go. And so he goes into the parable of the sower, and people start to call out that they can't hear him. And so the disciples are sent out as repeaters for the message. And so, we see them in the next scene. They are like, Jesus is talking, and they're, couple hundred feet away, and they're repeating it to the people behind them and everything. Sure. That seems like a good solution to the constant question of, I think I've always been like, well, Jesus just had a holy microphone and speaker system that nobody could see or whatever.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I've seen the explanation like, they must have been in an amphitheater sort of setting, because you can project to a very large area if you're in the right spot.
Yep.
And so I think this is another good solution for that. So why not?
Yep.
Then we see the man on the horse, Nashon. He comes upon a shepherd on the road. She comments that he's not wearing any tassels. And he's like, oh, that's, I don't follow that fashion. We don't do that where we are.
Yeah, literally, that's not the style in Hellenistic culture. I was like, oh my goodness, that is so Herodian Hellenistic. I love that. Absolutely.
And she's like, well, you're going to need him for Jerusalem. And he's like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And she's like, a storm's coming. He's like, yep, I got to go. So that will definitely come back to bite him.
Absolutely.
So Shmuel is awoken at night, and Nashon is waiting there, and Shmuel immediately asks about the tassels. like in a give him a way out sort of way, like, oh, that's a long ride, your tassels must have fallen off. And he's like, oh yeah, they must have, shoot. And so Shmuel has the other guy go get him, a loaner pair of tassels. And then the guy's trying to explain his story, and Shmuel's like, well, tell me about your vest. And he's like, oh, it's this thing from Damascus. It's woven silk and linen. And Shmuel's like, no, you got to take that off. You got to take that off.
Yeah.
This guy's trying to and it's funny because Shmuel is just like so desperately talking to anybody and everybody for any information about Jesus. This guy finally shows up with information about Jesus, and Shmuel cannot get over.
Yeah, that's right. And he's about ready to miss it because of his own religiosity. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Nashon makes this comment about like, oh, I thought those laws were just about like not imitating the cultures of the time. Like that was for back then. And Shmuel's like, no, Torah's timeless. And like this, the guy takes his vest off, like eventually gets his story out, finally shares about Jesus. And like, as soon as there's any indication of like, oh, this is definitely the right guy, Shmuel just like bolts out. And the guy's like,
that's enough. I need no more.
The guy's standing there like half of his clothes off, and he's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I thought I was reporting something, but apparently I was doing something way more intense than I thought I was.
And of course, Atticus is there to, immediately pop in for his typical cameo.
Yeah. Atticus is outside with Nashon's horse, and he just like runs through the whole thing, which again, I think illustrates perfectly the Hellenism of this guy. Like, oh, you've got this thing from here and this other thing from here.
He recognizes all this stuff. He knows where the leather's from. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Atticus is very savvy. And then, of course, gets some information out of him. And then we do see Atticus later following the what would you call it? The cart?
Yes, the carriage. Yep.
That Yanni and Shmuel and Ozem are in. And so Atticus is not really like subtly following them, but I mean, it's just a road. Like there's going to be people on the road. So, so Jesus is at this point teaching into the night. It was nighttime when Nashon arrived and spoke with Shmuel. So then we're back with Jesus. He's teaching into the night, going through Matthew 11, and eventually he's like, okay, well, it's late. We gotta go get some sleep. Even I need sleep. And Matthew and Judas are discussing the numbers. He's like, hey, did you count? And Matthew's like, oh, I think there were just as many over here as there were over there. So that's got to be a couple thousand. And they start talking about food. And Simon is not really taking to his position as linchpin for the success of this trip. He's like, if Jesus wants to do something, he'll do it. Like, don't worry about it.
Yep.
But again, we have lots of text going on there. Let's see. We do see the Pharisees arguing about various things. Like one guy I think it's Ozem, makes a comment about the ungodly hour, and I can't remember who says what necessarily, but like, oh, there's no such thing as an ungodly hour, and it's about like we're being away from our families, and he's like, well, we're serving God, we're serving our families by serving God. Lots of arguments about like whatever. At one point, Yanni says, I wrote this one down. He says, fidelity to God's law to the letter is the only thing that matters to you. And yet here you are complaining about actually having to act upon that conviction. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And the diversity of, there's theological diversity in that, whatever you want to call it, that carriage, that cart. Like these three Pharisees have three definitely divergent ideas of same commitment, same general worldview, different ways of holding it and pursuing it. And I appreciated that. They could have depicted like three guys all of the same mind. And yet there's this tension of how they pursue this self-righteousness or this religiosity. And absolutely.
Yeah. And like Shmuel is newer to the crew. So he's getting commented about that and
his seniority and his lack of respect for where he falls in the pecking order.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, we're focusing on the wrong thing. Like we should be focused more around Jerusalem. And Yanni's like, oh, so it's only a sin if it happens in or around Jerusalem. He's like, well, no, not that. But like, there's just, lots of lots of conversation and arguing about that. Really great. But ultimately, Yanni says, you know, we will have to take action if we get there and we find like magic tricks and sorcery going on. And there's some comment about like, oh, that it's, I haven't dealt with a magician in a while or something like that. Sorcerer in a while.
Yeah.
So then Andrew is wandering through the crowd. He's trying to find food, and Telemachus offers something. Telemachus is the son of the man who was deaf and mute that Jesus healed.
Oh, yeah, right.
And so the disciples go to Jesus and they're asking him about food. And I love this little God goggles throwing us a bone here. Judas is like, you knew they were hungry? And Jesus says, yes, Judas, I can see them while I'm talking.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, it's good.
I love that so much. So then Andrew comes up with the offering of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and Jesus lifts the bread up and prays and tells the disciples to start distributing the food. And Thomas looks at Jesus and he's like, this feels a little familiar. And they kind of like share a little look there. And Jesus tells them to get, does he tell them to get 12 baskets, or does he just tell them to get baskets? I think he tells them to get 12 baskets, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So they bring all the baskets together and set them down, and then they go to pick them up and realize that they're all heavy. So they're totally full. And Simon actually looks upset at this point, because I think Simon was like, I mean, this is such a brief moment, but Simon was like, you're not gonna, like, now that I know what's going on, I know you have to know what's going on because you know everything.
Yeah.
And so are you really gonna ignore me and continue to do things for these people, or are you gonna, focus on your people?
Yeah, there's a brief exchange. I can't remember if it's with John or James or somebody. Right before Thomas says, well, this feels familiar, there is an exchange where I think one of the most defining lines of, just personally, just on a personal level, I think it's a defining line for the content of where we're at in the story, season 3. Especially this episode, if nothing more, this episode is a major theme. Somebody says something to Peter and he says, I'm not afraid of that. I'm afraid he'll choose them.
Oh yeah.
And that line, I mean, that articulate, it's going to come up with Shmuel later. Like, there is something about being one of the themes in this episode that I appreciate so much. When you're on the inside, when you're a part of the community that claims to know Jesus and speak for Jesus, so much about where we're at in our culture, socially, politically, all those things right now, there is this angst about what I'm going to lose. Like, there is this, excuse me, let me rephrase that. It's very specifically not what I'm going to lose. It's what they are going to gain. Like, and yes, it's related to Peter. Like, yes, Peter's like, I've already lost, but he's more concerned that Jesus is going to choose them than his own experience and his own path in this moment. And that's going to obviously become a part of this episode. But like, that theme shows up about 3 or 4 times in the rest of this episode, where my concern is about, well, I think it's already shown up. It was Big James last episode talking about this isn't supposed to be with the Gentiles. No, Tamar, you're not like them, but he should be focused on us. I think that's just where we find ourselves in this cultural moment. Like, one group is afraid that by lifting up another group, by blessing another group, that means that somehow we lose rather than everybody wins. So that line I thought was just really well written and well delivered by the Simon character.
Yeah, really great. So then we're back with Eden and her mother, and they're visiting Yusuf. And the mom is like, I mean, I think in the sense that she is her mom, she's kind of like a little bitter and a little like protective and whatever, which is fine. I get that as a mom, but I feel like we just don't know her character enough, and it just felt a little unearned. Her attitude didn't even last. Like she just doesn't have any lines later on in the scene. So it's like she comes in hot, and then kind of gets shut down a little bit and then just doesn't ever say anything. Like, it's just kind of a weird thing with the mom.
Yeah, she's playing the part of Jewish matriarch. And she's also giving voice to what I was articulating before, whether it was intended or the reason that they have her doing this, I don't know. But like, she's playing the part of, the eye roll, the, hey, have you talked to your pastor? Like, ugh, like we open the scene and she's almost represents for me this, like, I did not think this scene was going to be, I mean, I was glad it was Yusuf. Like, I was like, okay, we can at least we like his character. But I did not think this scene was going to end in a positive light, and they nailed it. The characters nail it within the storyline, but the chosen writers, like, they nailed it. Here's Phariseeism done right. Like, this is what the Pharisees could have been. Like, Yusuf nails it. He plays the role. He pastorally cares for her. He uses text, and not in a demeaning way, but he sees her. He meets her where she's at. He gives her a psalm that could be beneficial and useful. He doesn't patronize her. He lets her feel the things she needs to feel. He gives space for, like, he just nailed it. And I was like, yes, this is what we hope for. And I know that it's not what most of us have experienced. The have you talked to your pastor is not the optimistic play that I would want to be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's where my hope lies. And yet when it's done correctly, when your pastor or a Pharisee or whoever understands what their call is as a spiritual leader, it can be so healing. I just thought, like, oh, I'm so glad that they are taking moments to show some Pharisees doing it correctly, some Pharisees nailing it. Like, it's just so it's well done. I didn't even do that good of a job. You can even link my addendum video on Pharisees, Brent, in the show notes. Like, I had to make an addendum video because I did such a poor job portraying what the chosen is portraying very well, and I wouldn't even expect them to, which is that the Pharisees were not a monolithic group. There were many different opinions, and the Pharisees will, after Jesus, end up heading in the direction Jesus kept encouraging them to head. Like, they will end up nailing it. And so I really liked that scene. That scene was so redemptive for me. Like, it was like, yes, actually, I don't know why I was expecting this scene to be so negative, but they got it. At least for a moment, they got it.
And I really appreciate how Yusuf walks her through. Like, he asks almost immediately, like, are you angry with Simon? And of course she is. Like, we've all seen that she is.
Yes.
But she says that out loud, I think, for the first time. And so, like...
And no condemnation, no, like, look of disappointment, just look of empathy.
Yep. And, he offers her the chance to do her cleansing ritual in their newly restored mikveh, makes a comment that, Simon was actually a part of restoring our water. So, like, even though he's not doing what you would have hoped that he is doing, like, he is doing something that is helpful to you.
Yep.
But he doesn't shove that down her throat and say, like, oh, he was doing that, so you should just not have a problem with him. Like, like, he just, like, gently reminds her, like, hey, Simon's been a part of this, even though it's not how you thought it was going to look.
Yep.
Then her mom cuts in and asks for something from Torah, something joyful. And Yusuf is like, I don't know if that'd be truthful. He offers Psalm 77 instead. And while he's reading from Psalm 77, we see Simon distributing food to the crowd. And, they finish with that food, and, they're just talking about, like, the miracle of it. And I mean, John makes the comment, it's always this way. I don't know why I'm surprised. And I'm thinking, I don't know why you guys are surprised either. Like, why are you not paying attention? But I mean, that's true. Like, that's how it's written. In many cases, it's like, especially 2 years in, like, why are you guys surprised? I don't know. They don't know either. Nobody knows why they're still surprised. But Simon and Jesus look at each other at this point, and Simon is standing there with a full basket of food, and he throws it on the ground. And man, the Pharisees arrive at this point. The crowd is dispersing. They start asking questions. They first approach, I don't know, some sort of leader, but it was one of those guys from the Syrophoenician group that we met in the last episode.
Well, they first encounter, what's his name? Leo.
Oh no, Leander's second.
Is Leander second? Is that after the Syrophoenician? Okay.
Yeah, so they're asking questions about this guy, and they're like, oh, well, we need 2 more witnesses. And then there's people everywhere, but they seem to be looking for like somebody who seems important or something. I don't know. But they come upon Leander, and he's explaining all the stuff, and they call out Jesus for blasphemy. And Shmuel's like, oh, no, hold on. We need 1 more witness.
I liked Leander's line as they're trying to like parcel this out. And he says, we've hurt each other. Like, they're claiming he's leading to all this hurt for the Jewish way. And Leander's saying, we've hurt each other, but he is healing us. The irony is, as they reject that, there's this deep-seated division that isn't healed in that very moment, but they're missing out on the healing that's being offered. Not literal, not physical healing, but like this spiritual, internal Jewish turmoil between these different philosophies and worldviews and sects of Judaism. So I really like that line. I wrote it down.
Yeah, and Shmuel actually seems a little bit dazzled by what Leander is saying. Like, he's a little...
Exactly. Yep.
He's not sure. Like, it's a crack has formed. Let's say that. So then we see Peter negotiating to get a boat, and I think, Peter's just like, oh, I'm done with this. He throws the food down. He's like, I just want to get home. I'm going to go get our boat. We're going to get there as fast as we can.
And almost unconcerned with Jesus, which totally fits where he's at right now.
Oh, yeah.
But because when he comes up later and says, hey, I got a boat, Jesus isn't even there. And when Jesus walks up, Peter's like, ugh. Like, he was going to get the disciples in a boat and take them back home. Whatever Jesus is doing, who even cares? But that was where he was going to be.
Yeah. So the disciples are noticing the storm. Jesus comes back and says, he needs some time alone to pray. They can all go in the boat. And Simon makes a comment to John that he thinks he was a mistake. It's like, dark time for Simon.
Yep.
Atticus is watching this whole thing unfold, and he's eating some of the bread. It's like, okay, even Atticus is getting the benefits of this situation.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, at some point, it's got to break through to Atticus, right? I don't know. I think this is maybe a good point to talk about the potentially combined stories of the feedings.
Well, I'm assuming they're not going to do a second feeding, which is a very prominent historical idea, that the feeding of the 5,000, the feeding of 4,000 are really just one event. Like, did it really happen twice? And my position from session 3, the answer to that question is yes, with very, obvious reasons. They place this feeding in the Decapolis, which, as we looked at in session 6, fits how John tells the story. So, there's plenty of reason and justification for them pulling these 2 stories together. That doesn't even bother me. And you got to pick one of them. So they picked the 12 baskets, where in the Decapolis, I would want the 4,000, the 7 baskets. I don't think they ever actually say there's 5,000 people there. So they leave the number out of it. It's actually a brilliant way to weave all of this biblical content together. They just kind of smashed all this stuff together. And I don't mean that in a haphazard way at all. Like, really well designed, put all these stories together. But yeah, it appears that we have both feedings combined into one story, which is not a crazy idea. Lots of people harmonize it in that way. And
boy, you're right. They did not actually say the 5,000 number in the episode.
Nope. They say
they counted up to 2,000 the day before.
Yep.
Huh. That's interesting. In the credits, it does, they make reference to feeding the 5,000.
Okay, there you go.
Definitely credited that way. I think they're definitely thinking of it as the 5,000.
Sure.
And obviously all the other numbers are right for that. 5 loaves and 2 fish, 12 baskets, all the other numbers are there.
But if it's intentional, clever to not mention the number, because then they can...
Right.
They can do
that.
So.
Huh. Interesting. Well, because, are they going to use that? I think it is in Matthew, isn't it? Where Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's like, don't you remember when we fed the 5,000 and how many baskets were left over? 12.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're combining even the storm on the sea stories. I don't know if they're going to do the story of the demon-possessed man. I don't know. I just don't know until we see where they head with all of that, because I think that's already depends on how you harmonize stuff, but I think that's past already. When, like at the end here, we haven't talked about it yet, but Jesus is going to make this comment about while he's on water, like, have you not learned anything? Which is reminiscent of that conversation where he points out the numbers of baskets, but he doesn't say that at this point. So will it come back again later, or have they again craftily put all these stories kind of seamlessly together, in which case it's not going to come up and be mentioned?
Well, fair enough. We'll see. I mean, we do still have 4 more seasons of this show, so there's plenty of opportunity for something to happen, but yeah, we'll see where it's going. I think we'll probably know by the next season what's going to happen with this portion of the story, but I don't know. We'll see. So then I think one of the most fascinating scenes.
Agreed. I know where you're headed. Agreed. Fascinating to me. Absolutely.
Night is approaching and Shmuel is wandering around, apparently still looking for his third witness. It's like, dude, there are people everywhere. But I guess they gotta be able to, I don't know if they're looking for people who they feel like they can subpoena and bring to Jerusalem, or I don't know what they're looking for exactly, but they're still looking for a witness, apparently.
Well, they're probably looking for Jews, and then they're probably looking for Jews who, A, are going to carry the weight of testimony, like to have some kind of authority, and be willing to work with them, which is going to be another problem and a hurdle. So,
true.
Probably not interested in having a Syrophoenician witness. That's not going to do them any good. They need a Jewish witness.
Sure. That makes sense. Well, Shmuel is, they do take the Syrophoenician as their first witness, though. And then they take Leander. What is Leander's? Leander's is he just Greek?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm assuming those are actual witnesses, because they're going to have to agree to actually testify. And I'm not sure Leander is interested at all in helping them do anything. So I'm not sure if those are the...
Yeah, they just make comments after the Syrophoenician guy. After they talk to him, they're like, we need 2 more witnesses. And then after they talk to Leander, one of them says, we need 1 more witness.
Yeah.
Not my point, really. Shmuel is wandering around and encounters Jesus, and Jesus comments that
there's a witness for you.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Jesus comments that he looks troubled, and he's like, why don't you come with me to pray? And Shmuel goes with him. It's like, what?
Apparently, like, the scene is cut, and I don't know. I'm like, I cannot wait. Like, it's one of my most anticipated moments of season 4. And who knows? They might leave me hanging even longer than that before they bring back some backstory, because we're not told. Like, we don't know what happens. And I don't even know if it looks like he goes with Jesus. He makes a move.
That's true. That's true.
And we assume he's following Jesus, but who knows? Maybe he's going the other direction. I don't even know, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely fascinated by this.
I know,
by the
too.
possibility of it, I guess. So then we see the disciples on the water. It's just dumping rain, and they are stuck wherever they're going. The wind is working against them. I suppose we could try to figure out where they think this are, because Peter makes a comment like they're only, I think he says 8 miles, right? Says they're 8 miles across the sea. It would be longer to go around or whatever, so this is the faster way.
Yep.
We know how to row. I think he makes a comment to Big James about it. So we could, I assume they're going back to Capernaum.
Probably the harbor right by there, Tabgha. Yeah, absolutely.
A little 8 mile line across the Sea of Galilee and figure out where they are. But
yeah.
So they're rowing, and then we see spooky Jesus silhouette against the lightning in the sky. John is the only one to see this at this point. I was absolutely shocked when I was watching this the first time. I was like, whoa, that was creepy.
Yeah.
And Atticus is watching the boat from the shore. He can just barely see the boat, eventually loses sight of that. Andrew then sees Jesus and calls out that there's a ghost, and Jesus is just slowly approaching the boat. Simon is watching. Everybody else is beginning to panic. Simon's like, no, hold on. And then Jesus calls out to Simon. Simon is sharing his heart. Jesus repeats his line that he used earlier about being weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. And then as Simon starts to step into the water, we see Eden step into the mikveh. And I was trying to figure out what what they're reciting with Eden, there's like a line from Psalm 147 verse 3, like they use that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the mikvah ritual cleansing blessing, which I don't know off the top of my head or know anything about historically, but I would assume that's the blessing they're reciting.
Yeah, it definitely, like Psalm 147 verse 3 is there, but the stuff around it doesn't match Psalm 147. Later, she says something from Psalm 57 verse 1, but again, like it doesn't match anything else from Psalm 57. I drove myself crazy trying. I probably spent way too much time trying to track this down. If it's just like a separate mikvah blessing that they've put together all these pieces, it's like, okay, well, that would... I didn't even think to look it up. I was like, it's got to be in the text somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But Jesus is talking about strengthening Simon and Eden through trials, and Simon loses his focus on Jesus, begins to sink. This is where Simon goes underwater, Eden goes under the water, and then Jesus pulls Simon out.
The iconic shot from underneath the water where the hand comes through, like we've all seen that. And it wasn't like this whole scene could have been so bad. It could have been so bad, and it wasn't. It was actually good. I was impressed how they did a lot of stuff, and even that iconic shot was like, but was good. They made a bunch of theological decisions there about the hand. I don't know if anybody else grew up arguing about Calvinism so much that I was like, like the hand was down, but Jesus waited. Peter had to make the motion to grab the hand. And then as soon as Peter put his hand in there, but the grasp was Jesus's. So there was like this theological, like, I'm sure that was very intentional about how they did all that. Because there was a mixture of Jesus reaches, Peter has to make the move, but Jesus is the one that grasps. And oh my gosh, I was just like, so theologically aware of how that moment works. But yep.
Well, and I just love that they took the text seriously and said,
sure,
like, okay, so the disciples are terrified. They say they're seeing a ghost.
Yep.
And they just like, okay, let's show that.
How are you going to make that? Absolutely.
And it it worked for me. I was like, whoa, what the frick was that? I was crawling in my skin on that first lightning strike. I was like, no, that's not good. That's not good. I believe those disciples so much that they are terrified. Like, absolutely.
Yep.
So, and I love that they did that. They're not going to say like, oh, we're a family show, we can't scare people. It's like, well, the disciples were scared.
Yep.
So let's try to get in their shoes, and they do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I was very impressed.
And I'm sure a lot of us have seen the clip on social media. They've shared it a bunch where they filmed that, and how they filmed that in this like wave pool with a little foamy platform that Jesus and Peter are standing on. And it was so interesting to see that behind the scenes and how they're able to pull that together cinematically to make it look as it does. It's actually quite impressive. So could have been I was not optimistic. But they did it. They pulled it off. I was like, that was not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah. And I think on a practical production level, it makes sense the way they portrayed it. But I also feel like it just seems more realistic to how it would have been, as far as like,
honestly, yes, absolutely.
Like Jesus isn't just like floating above the water in this like angelic glow. Like,
right.
Like he's walking, like the water is around his feet. It's not like he's not on the sea. He's in the water, but he is walking on it. And I think the way the production probably demanded that they portrayed it, I feel like it is the right kind of look for how it would have been. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know. We can't know that, but it just felt right.
Yeah, we don't know. But there was a lot of other things that also match exactly what you're saying, like how dark, how drenched and wet and miserable, and the wind, and like, everything about it was, it was, could have been done a lot of different ways, but I mean, I was miserable just watching the scene. I'm like, get me out of here, man. I feel wet and scared and gross. So, yeah. Well done.
So in the boat, Simon is just weeping in Jesus' arms, and Eden is praying for Simon in the mikveh, which is just like, oh, man.
Yep.
Even in her moment, like she knows like, oh, it's not just me. Like Simon is is a part of what I'm going through too, and I'm gonna pray for him. So I love that connection is made.
Yep.
And then we have the Psalm 77 voiceover, and we see Simon back on land. We see John in prison. We see Gaius with Evo. We see Rhema practicing her writing. Simon gets home, and Eden comes out, and they hold each other. And then the absolute money part of Psalm 77 hits with the line. I mean, I don't like. Is there any connection to this psalm in the text to these stories of Jesus walking on the water or calming the storm or anything? Like, is there any direct quotation?
Well, if you were to come with a particular Bible teacher to Israel, it's one of the psalms that I connect to. Maybe not the walking on water, but the other stories of Jesus calming the sea.
Right.
It's not the one that I go to. It's not the two that jump to the top of the list for me, but it's obviously a potential remez, maybe even multiple remezes at work. And particularly the walking on water, not just the coming on the sea, but the part about him treading, your footprints weren't seen, you treaded upon the water, a path was cut for you. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously some great remez work there. I've never even considered about connecting the remez to the actual walking on water story, but that's a great option if we do.
I mean, yeah, your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense on a remez level. I was just wondering if there was an actual quotation. I was trying to understand why they picked Psalm 77.
Because they're smarter than I anticipate. They have really impressed me with their commitment to tying. I mean, artistically, of course, you tie it to other texts, but I mean, golly, even from a Pardes perspective, I have really liked how hard they've worked to do that. And like I said, the first time when we were watching this episode, and Psalm of Asaph, okay, okay, walking on water, okay. And the more I watch this episode, every time I think about the content of that psalm, I'm like, man, that was well chosen. Well chosen.
Yeah, it tied everything together. Oh, man.
Yep. Is that it? Is that season 3, Brent?
Well, I mean, almost. So 76 minutes for the episode itself. Pretty long. 4 minutes for the credits. So 80-minute runtime. That's at least a Disney movie feature length,
Sure.
Disney animated movie feature length. Pretty long episode. We have 11 minutes for contributor credits. And then I don't know if you saw this. They had 8 minutes of bloopers after all the credits. Did you stick around for that?
I've seen the bloopers isolated, but I didn't realize they were at the end of this episode. I have seen them isolated on their own.
Well, they at least were at the end of the episode on the disc that I have. So,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Final thoughts on season 3, Marty? What do you think?
It was, I think in a lot of ways, it was my favorite season so far. Either they're just winning me over and I'm becoming less critical, or there was just far less things in this season that I would critique, and even the ones that I do, I'm like, but I appreciate that. I think one of the things that's happening through The Chosen that I really appreciate, and it's gonna stay with me, like it's gonna keep going with me outside of The Chosen, which is now that I'm meeting these, fictional representations of these characters, it's loosening up my own imagination, because I get locked into like how I view Philip. Who was Philip? And Judas, like who, and now that I've met another Judas, another potential portrayal of Judas or Philip or any of these characters, even Simon, like now I'm like, well, I'm going to be less quick to be like, this is the way that it was. That's healthy. It's healthy for me or anybody. And that's part of what I'm really appreciating about what The Chosen is doing. And what's I think what is so maybe unappreciated about the power of art, biblical art, and art that doesn't necessarily stick with only in the text, and the only thing we can talk about is what's in the Bible and no creative license. And this is actually the power of creative license and the way they're creating backstories. And yeah, I think we're working on an interview for some bonus episode in the future. It's going to be on the other side of my sabbatical, but if we can get somebody, we're going to try to talk to somebody over there about what they do and how they do it, and hopefully that'll be fun too.
Yep, for sure. We'll be be up for that whenever you get back. I think what I appreciate about this season is just like seeing the transformation of people, and not everybody does it. Like the Zealots and Z, like seeing some of them like, oh, they start to see what Z is seeing in Jesus, and seeing Gaius start to crack open, seeing some of the Pharisees start to crack open their perspective. And there's plenty of people who don't, which I like. It's just it makes so much sense, obviously.
I saw on Instagram yesterday. So we actually, little peek behind the curtain, I sent an email yesterday out, trying to arrange an interview for a future conversation. And that same day, Dallas posted on the Chosen social media that it was the middle day they're right in the middle of, who knows when I'll hear back, because they're literally in the middle of filming season 4 right now. And they were on the middle day. So it's the middle day of the middle season. And somebody commented and tagged me on Instagram. They said, I think Marty Solomon would say, I smell a chiasm. And I appreciated somebody saying that. So
perfect.
Who knows? When they get all done with season 4, maybe they'll have time to talk to us. But appreciated somebody adding that humorous little tag in the comments.
Well, Marty, so generous of you to go on sabbatical and give them time to finish filming season 4.
I do what I can. I mean, whatever I can do to serve other people, it's where I'm called.
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up for this bonus series. And let's see, coming later this week, if you're listening in real time, we've got that interview with Kat Armstrong that we're excited to share. And then we will finish up session 7.
Yes.
And Marty will be back from his sabbatical to help us close that out. Marty, as we record, you are embarking on your sabbatical journey, I think, tomorrow, basically.
I put my auto response on my email tomorrow afternoon, so this is it.
Yeah, so enjoy your time, and we look forward to hearing about what God is doing in your heart and doing in your life and doing in this ministry and everything else. So we will talk about all of that when you get back.
You got it.
All right. Everyone else can go to BamaDiscipleship.com. Check all of the things there for the latest updates. We do have the couple of links in the show notes as far as that episode on the prophetic table and the addendum video on the Pharisees. And really, it sounds like we might even need an addendum to the addendum, Marty. At some point, we keep learning things, so it's good. We're all growing together. So
that's right.
Thanks for joining us on the Bama Podcast. We'll talk to you again soon.